you see that it has similar power and weight ratios. Welcome to the channel, Scott's Garage, HTX. Don't forget the HTX. And yes, it's hot out there. I'm not one of those people that say, it's never been that hot before. Yes, it has. It's Texas and it's called summer. I'm going to do a review on this 2022 BMW S1000R. And I know there have been lots, I've seen them out there on YouTube about the reviews on this bike, but I'm going to do it a little bit differently. I'm going to try to convince you to buy one. At least consider it, for goodness sakes, because it's a great buy. I think one of the better ones out there. I also have another idea. That's better. Before I start singing all the praises on this bike, there are some things I don't care for. First and foremost, try avoid looking in this general area. That's not attractive. And some of the YouTube channels out there I've seen on the review of this bike agree with me. I know it's subjective. Does it grow on you? It hasn't grown on me. The other thing is this big honking tailpiece. And now I don't really think it's that unattractive. It's just obtrusive and it sticks out so far. And I know there's legal requirements for bikes and how far these things have to be apart. But I kept on running into this one and knocking it off and have to fix it. But I took care of that, put a tail tidy on there, and I think it looks great. Third, this key. I know KTM and BMW think this is a benefit, and it's a love-hate relationship with me. One, it's inconvenient rolling up to gas stations, have to dig in your pocket to go open up the fuel tank. I won't have to worry about it anymore because I'm never going to go to a fuel station again to fill up my bike. I'm going to fill up my containers and use that electric fuel pump that I showed you in one of my previous episodes to fuel up, and I'm going to fuel up here. I just kept on feeling like a target going into a gas station with a helmet on, gloves on, no peripheral vision, and I just didn't like that. So anyway, problem solved. What I worry about in this thing is you put this in his pocket, you hit the button, the key opens, you get in an accident, and this jams into your leg and into your artery and you bleed out. I know that's going to extremes, but there's things I think about. But on the other side of that, if somebody tries to pull me off this bike and this is in my pocket, the first thing I'm going to do is hit the on-off button and run away from the bike. And now they can't get the bike started and roll away with it because I've got the key. So, and I know I'm going to extremes. Just take it for what it is. It's the things I think about. Those are basic. Oh, the last one, that was 3. The last thing is it will die on me. If I'm going down the road and I yank in on the clutch, it just dies. Not all the time, and it's not the tune, because it is happening before the tune as well. And what I've done basically is just change my riding style. I took it into the BMW place and I told them, hey, this thing has this quirk about it. And they kind of went, couldn't figure it out. And so I went, back, and so I just changed my riding style basically. I kind of roll off the throttle a little bit, then pull in on the clutch. That's my fix for this. All these things are addressed except for this. The bike basics, 1,000 cc's, 999, 1,000 cc's, 162 horsepower, 84 foot-pounds of torque, 12,000 RPM red line. Bike weighs 439 pounds wet. I've actually taken some weight off of this bike by switching out the exhaust, wow, and putting on an Akrapovic titanium Evolution exhaust. Took about 14.5 pounds off, and then I've taken some other stuff off, so let's call it 17 pounds I've taken off this. And it increased the horsepower with a BT Moto tune and that exhaust, maybe, let's just call it 5. We hope more, but I don't know. I don't have a dyno, and I'm not quite sure what it is. The brakes, 320 millimeter dual disc, 4-piston fixed calipers. Rear, 220 millimeters, single piston, floating. Suspension, upside down forks in the front. Rear shock is adjustable. The gas tank on this has 4.4 gallons. I think the reserve is 1.1. And the transmission, it has a wet clutch, 6-speed. Neat little feature here is on the pivot point. If you put this shift lever right here on the back, or the plunger on the back side of the pivot point, that's standard shift. If you move it to the front, that's reverse shift, and that's kind of what I'm used to. Basically, this bike has the engine, suspension, and brakes for any performance needs you really have out there on the street. The tech on this bike, I actually wrote a lot of it down to keep myself in check, and I may still miss some stuff. So you guys can also keep me in check if you know this bike. Riding modes, you got rain, road, dynamic, and dynamic pro. Selecting your different riding modes, go to your right grip, hit mode, and you can go in between rain, road, dynamic, and dynamic pro. If you want to change your settings on Dynamic Pro, go to the menu button, go down, go over to settings, go down, vehicle settings, use your toggle switch over, and then you have all kinds of settings for your vehicle. RDC, hill start control, lap timer, shift light, configuration, pro riding mode, dynamic. You see, if you turn your pro riding mode off, then you start selecting between the different modes here. Default's to rain, I guess, and then you'd have to hit your mode switch to rain, road, and dynamic, and you'll notice that Dynamic Pro is no longer an option. That's because you turned it off. Turn it back on. Then go down to Dynamic Pro, go into there, and now you can start setting all your different engine parameters. Engine brake, traction control, wheelie, ABS, or you can reset it all. But there is where you can set all your Dynamic Pro settings, in which you can go set all the goodies that you want. It is an LED adaptive headlight on it, which you can set from right-hand drive to left-hand drive. You know where you are. Right, I'm in the States, basically. So this light, although not very attractive to look at, is pretty functional. It's bright. You can flash your high beams. When you put your high beams on, the adaptive works to above 6 miles an hour and not too extreme lean angle. But like I say, low beam, flash, high beam, and it lights this street up nice. Really have no excuse not seeing where you're going. But the adaptive headlight can adjust for lean angle, as long as certain parameters are met, a certain speed, I think it's 6 miles an hour, and the lean angle is not too extreme. It has cruise control. Slide this button over, and now you can set whatever speed you're going to go at. Heated grips. The heated grips button on top here, hit that button, and you have 3 different settings. It has USB port to charge your phone or other items, whatever that may be. USB port is right there underneath the passenger seat. You gotta remove the tool set, and it does have a tool set. I didn't mention that. I don't know what it's gonna do. I've got much better tools in my toolbox. But I guess if you're on the road, maybe you're in a spot, you can use it. But USB port there, it's got a little cover, and you can use that to charge your phone. Bluetooth connectivity for your helmet, passenger's helmet, your phone. Navigation. To do navigation, make sure that you go into settings and just make sure your connections and you're actually hooked up to your phone, which I am. You can go to the mobile app from BMW, pick a location. There's some options that you can pick on here that give you fast, short, efficient, and windy. We'll just do fast real quick. Hit go, and you should be able to get to navigation, calculating your route, and you can also go into your route, and if you have Bluetooth connectivity to your helmet, you can get those directions through your earpiece. It has hill start control, and it has tire pressure and temperature monitoring. For the track, I'll probably never get this on the track, but if you do, you have a lap timer, you have launch control, and you have a pit speed limiter as well. let's get this thing on the road and talk about it while we ride it. A couple tidbits before we hit the road. My vehicle. You can go into here, look at your vehicle, do different parameters and find out what you've been doing on your bike. Basically, my fuel consumption is 34 miles per gallon, things like that. We go back through here. What I think is neat is the sport modes. You can select different dash pads or different dash configurations that you want. You don't have to settle for, and there's your lap timer and so on, but you don't have to settle for the standard. You can change it to something else that you want. Test rode quite a few bikes before I bought this bike. I did the Street Fighter V4, and we'll put that off to the side real quick because that's like an animal to its own. Then, let's see, I did the Honda CB1000 and the Aprilia Tuono V4, MT10 from Yamaha, and I didn't get to test ride it, but I did look at the Kawasaki, what is that, H2Z? All great bikes in their own. They really are. But if you look at those, and again, setting aside the Street Fighter from Ducati, they all have very, very similar power to weight ratios. Yamaha being probably the least favorable in the weight power category, because it's a heavy bike, and it's got, I think, 160 horsepower. And even the Kawasaki, that's a heavy bike. That's over 500 pounds wet. So when you look at this one, and you see that it has similar power to weight ratios, to all those other bikes, kind of think about, well, what would make me pick one over the other? Would it be styling, comfort? Well, sitting on all those bikes all had the same kind of comfort to it. The seat height was very, very similar, excuse me. So the comfort on them were pretty much the same. The styling, they all had their different quirks. I think the Kawasaki is the most busy of it. But when I reacquainted myself with these other bikes online when doing this video, I began to think, aside from the Aprilia, this bike's front end looks pretty good. So maybe it will grow on me. Because, like I said, the Kawasaki is pretty busy up there, all around in the front, and with everything, and I guess the subject, that's subjective. The eye is in the beholder. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder, right? But they're all, they just kind of look like they just slapped on the front headlight. So when I went back and looked at this one, it actually looks like they actually did a little bit of integration. And yeah, maybe this will actually grow on me. And quite honestly, I'm going to pick power, performance over looks most of the time. If it's got both, yeah, well then that's a win-win. Now the Street Fighter. I test rode that, and well, that's a massive bike. I mean, 208 horsepower, and I believe it's really, really light. It's a power to weight ratio, oh swell. The power weight ratio is absurd, and you know, I got on the bike and I was like, oh, this thing wants to kill me. Every time you get on it, it's like, it doesn't want you on it. It wants to kill you. The other end of the extreme was the Honda CB 1000 R, I think, and it was a little bit too sedate. But as far as shifter goes and comfort, it was great. The quick shifter, and that's also something I probably forgot to mention when I was rattling off my pros about this bike and all the tech it had. It's got a great quick shifter, but the quick shifter on the Honda, it's like butter. I mean, they've got that down to a science. It's great. So when I put all that stuff together, I wanted a light bike, or the lightest bike. If they all have the same or similar power weight ratios, I'm not going to be able to pick up in the seat of the pants any difference between 2.6 and 2.65 in a weight or power ratio. I'm just not. But I will pick up a difference between 30 and 40 pounds or 100 pounds. And that was one of the big selling points for me on this bike. It's easy to toss. I'm already a heavy guy, and this bike, after I took all the weight of it, I think I'm down to 415 or so pounds on this bike, wet. So it was a great starting point, and it was lower than all of them. BMW, I don't know really how they did it, but they managed to do it. Hey, so you see these tunnels coming up here? You've seen them 100 billion times if you do anything with cars and bikes on YouTube or Instagram or any of them. Look at all the tire marks on the road, because all the wankers come down here and think that they're the first ones to ever film these cars and bikes inside the tunnels. It's only been done 40 billion times since they've been built, and I think they're less than a year old. What this used to be is a big park, and Memorial Road right here cut right through the middle of it. So they took a bunch of tax dollars and decided we're going to put Memorial Park over top of the road. I really didn't know what they meant by that. I thought this whole street was going to be a big tunnel, and what we really got was two little tunnels. Yep, and that's why I don't run. And that is why I don't take off at the green. That guy he wasn't going to pay attention whatsoever. If I would have gone, he's probably on his phone anyway. How about that red light? Good thing I didn't go. Let's get it in some bins. You know, I'm really not going to be dragging any knees. At least I don't think I'll be dragging any knees on the street. But this thing does a pretty good job being able to lean it over, get through the turns. Have some fun with it. Don't want to run anybody over here.
I can get it down, and I can do this corner much faster. Matter of fact, it almost feels like it wants to. But these roads are pretty bumpy. I don't know what's on them, but you can still have some fun out there. Thank you, buddy. That was polite. Appreciate that. The other thing that kind of pushed me over the edge on this bike was the tech. A bunch of the bikes that I've mentioned before, they have a bunch of tech, a bunch of riding controls on it, just like this bike. But none of them really seem to have all the tech that this bike has. This has navigation, the Bluetooth connectivity, the USB ports, and all the riding equipment that you want. Right? Big word, but it has all the riding modes that you want. You can select them just like you can select on the others. So for me, it just ended up being a bit of a Goldilocks deal, where I didn't want something as angry as the Ducati Street Fighter V4. And I didn't want something as estate as the Honda CB1000R. So, for me, it's a fairly logical choice. Speaking of logical, let's talk about maybe illogical. I'm just joking. I don't know about these things. I mean, I've never been in one, so I don't know. They're just more fun than a bike, easier than a bike. I don't know the attraction to them yet. But they are. I see a lot of them on roads, and this is like, I don't know. Maybe somebody can turn me on to that and tell me what's the appeal to that right there. Well, that's it. This to me was the best choice for myself. Lightweight, good power, great tech, and if I didn't want all those things combined and I just wanted performance, yeah, it would have been the Street Fighter. You guys keep on keeping on. We'll catch you next time.